Hi everyone, Andy from the Purple Rock Podcast here. Welcome to part 2 of our interview with the winner of Survivor Cagayan, Tony Vlachos. If you haven't heard part 1, you can find it on our blog and iTunes. As a reminder, this episode contains language unsuitable for children. Sorry kids. And now, more from Tony. Tony.
So, skipping back to votes though, the one thing that Andy and I were freaking out about was Spencer had a chance to get you out by flipping Jeffra and didn't do it, didn't tell her that he had an idol, didn't get her to come to his side. Were you aware at the time how close she came to flipping on you and getting you out?
You know how I was aware? She came and told us. She came and admitted to us that she crossed the enemy line. And that's what she told us. She was like, okay, because what happened was, Trish put out my fire with Jeffra, because Jeffra, there was a scene where I called Jeffra a goat, and I shouldn't have done that, but we got into an argument because I blindsided LJ, and I was like, I don't even know why you're mad, Jeffra. I just cut you free from LJ. Now you're a free goat. You could run around like a free wild goat, thanks to me. I was telling her to cut this off because she didn't like that. But
I can't imagine she wouldn't like that.
Yeah, and the reason I said that is because she was saying that, I don't want people to see me as LJ's goat. So, and I remembered she said that. So that's why I said that. You should be thanking me that I cut you loose from LJ. You're no longer his goat. And she got upset. So that's when you saw the episode where she was like, I can't stand Tony. I'm tired of his antics. Oh, and she also caught me in the spy shack, by the way. She caught me in the spy shack spying on Trish and Kat. And she told them. So then, and again, they didn't show that, but Jeffra caught me. She followed me. She followed me, following Cass and Trish. So, and they didn't show, they didn't give Jeffra a lot of props, man, and that's messed up. But, what happened
as viewers, we thought that she was nothing, basically.
Yeah, everybody there, just like Jeff said, everybody was there to play, everybody was playing. Nobody was just, knitting sweaters and stuff. We were all playing the game. So, Jeffra at one point, Trish and Cass were walking to the water well. And what I usually do is when I see people walking towards the water well, I would walk opposite. They would go towards the back of the camp. I would go towards the front of the camp. I would make a hard left and then start bolting to try to bypass them and cut in front of them and get to point A before they get to point A. So when Jeffra saw me following, stepping out of the shelter and going toward the beach, she followed me, and she saw me going down the back path down to the water well because I knew that's where they were going. So I wanted to get there first and hide in my shack. And what happened, I guess Jeffra saw me hiding in the shack, and I was listening to Cass and Trish talk. And so pretty much, and that was after the LJ vote off. So Cass was telling Trish, so what do you think about Tony? What are you thinking about what he pulled on us like that without, keeping us in the dark? And Trish was like, well, he did have a reason. He was pretty scared of that, LJ was going to flip on us because he told him, and I heard the whole story. And then Cass was like, yeah, I guess. But, you could tell Cass wasn't buying it, So I had to make sure that I kept my eyes on Cass at that point because I seen Cass was already thinking like, we can't trust Tony. Where Trish was like, yeah, he had a point. He told us why he did it, and Jeffra saw me coming out of my spy check at that moment. So what she did, she went back and told Cass and Trish, again, trying to stir things up. And she did stir things up. So when I came back to them, Trish and Cass said, so Tony, were you following us today at all? And I said, you know what? No, at that point, I know I got busted somehow. So I told them the truth. I said, you know what, ladies? I did, and I'm so glad I did. And I started playing it off. I'm like so happy. Oh, my God, you guys don't know how happy I am with you guys now. I trust you 1,000%. I heard you guys saying that you guys like me, and, you guys respect the move that I made with LJ, and you can trust me. So I am so happy that I heard you guys. And they were like, okay, we appreciate that, but you got to stop the shenanigans. And that's when I was stopped. And that's when that's when they showed on TV when we were all in the water, and that's when they were telling me, you got to stop your antics and this and that, and that's when I was promising them I swear I won't do it again, I swear I promise, and that's when we voted off the Jeremiah. We came to a consensus because I was asking for forgiveness to Jeffra for like 2-3 hours. I'm so sorry, Jeffra. I didn't mean to do that behind your back. I didn't mean to, and Trish was also working Jeffra. So that's when Jeffra told us, all right, listen, guys, I was going to flip on you because I was very upset. But what you did, I thought you were just going to side with them and start voting us off one by one, and I didn't want to be a sucker, so I thought about going with them, but I'm not going to go with them. I'm going to stay loyal to you guys. That's what she told us. She came clean with us. And I'm saying to myself, I'm like, holy shit. So, okay, let me get this straight. This girl just told us she was about to flip on us. And then I'm trying to count the votes. Like, who do you have? You only have Spencer, you only have Jeremiah, and you only have Tasha. That makes 4 of you. The numbers ain't right, because if the numbers were right, you probably would have flipped. That's what I'm saying to myself. So I'm like, okay, I just need to get through this vote. Once I get through this vote, I'm going to take care of you, Jeffra. That's what I was saying to myself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what happened. So she came back to us. She told us she was going to flip. She didn't. She had second thoughts. And I'm saying to myself, listen, you didn't have second thoughts because I apologized to you 1,000 times. You had second thoughts because the numbers weren't right for you at that point. So that's why I had in the back of my mind she has to go after we get rid of. See, my thing was I wanted to keep us 2 ahead of the minority alliance. I always wanted to have 2 in case one of us flipped. It would become a tie. So that's why I wanted to get rid of one of those people first. That's why I said, okay, I'll agree. Let's get Jeremiah out because we don't think he has an idol. So we all agreed. We all made a consensus to get Jeremiah out at that point. Once we got Jeremiah out, I said to myself, okay, Jeffra has to be next. However, if Tasha would not have won that immunity idol, I think we would have got rid of Tasha because Tasha was a bigger threat than Jeffra at that point. So I guess that goes back to the All Girls Alliance. When I seen them in the water, you know, like, people think that Spencer planted a seed in my head that there was an All Girls Alliance forming, but that was not the case at all. Spencer pointed out the obvious. Well, actually, I went to Spencer and I said, hey, Spencer, look at the girls, you know, look at the girls in the water. Tasha's trying to work them. And that's when Spencer says, you don't think they're doing a girls alliance? And I said, well, it's there, it's happening. And people started saying, oh yeah, Spencer planted a seed. No, Spencer did not plant a seed in my head. Nobody planted a seed in my head. If the move didn't seem right to me, I would have never done the move. And no matter what anybody tells me, it's what I wanted to do, what I thought was right for me. So at that point, I left the confessional and I said, you know, Spencer's desperate, so, you know, he's going to tell me things, whatever he's going to tell me out of desperation, but I'm going to take matters into my own hands. And that's what I did. I started looking at it, and I was like, you know what, right now, it might not be a girls' alliance forming, but what happens if we vote off Spencer today? It's going to leave 4 girls and 2 guys, which is me and Wu. Their only move, if they're playing the game correctly, is to form a girls' alliance at that point and get rid of the 2 guys. That was the only move. So there was no way I was going to let a girl stay in that tribal council. There was no way I was going to let a girl stay and get rid of Spencer. Absolutely no way. So it was either Tasha or Jeffra, because Jeffra was going to flip the second she got the numbers on her side.
So when you vote out Jeffra like that, or somebody, are you, at the time, do you think you're just sacrificing the jury vote, or do you still think you have a shot at winning her back?
No, I absolutely have a shot at winning her back, because again, she came clean to us telling us she was going to flip on us. So my whole thing was, Jeffra, you really considered flipping on us, and you told us, you admitted to us. We didn't guess that you were going to flip on us. You told us you were flipping on us. And then her argument would be, but I didn't flip on you guys. And my argument would be, you couldn't flip on us. You didn't have the numbers. Had you flipped on us, the person you wanted out, which was me, would have been the only one safe, because it would have been a tie, and you guys would have been drawing rocks, and I would have been sitting there safe. So you couldn't have flipped. It wouldn't have made sense for you. So that's why you didn't flip. Not because you didn't want to, not because you were staying loyal. Your intentions of flipping were there already. And once you told me your intentions were there already to flip on us, that's it. You broke your promise to me. That's it. You broke your allegiance. It's time for me to make my move. You became a threat to me. And that was my argument. So yeah, I wasn't concerned at all about that, because she admitted to the whole alliance she was ready to flip. And that's why once I blindsided Trish and Cass by voting on Jeffra, I went back to them and I said, guys, you can't be stupid. You got to know why I voted her out. She's the one that's targeting me. She wasn't targeting you, Trish. She wasn't targeting you, Cass. And she wasn't targeting you, Wu. She was targeting Tony. So guess what? Tony acted first. I didn't want to get blindsided when he had the numbers.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of people would, you know, who think that there's a certain way to play Survivor, they were criticizing you for always jumping early. But when you're the front runner like you were, you have to act early. You know, Trish can wait. She can sit back and wait. Nobody's looking to vote out Trish anytime soon. But yeah, your name was on the line.
Exactly. That's a big difference when people want to just sit there and go according to plan. When their name is not being thrown around, they have nothing to worry about. I'm the one that's being targeted, not you, Trish. And that's what I was telling her, too, when she was telling me, why did you do this? Why did you do that? You know, with the Morgan, when I had to explain to her that the Morgan vote up, I was like, Trish, it wasn't your name that was put down 4 times. It was mine at that tribal. You know, that's why I did that. And I said, it wasn't your name. It was my name. So, of course, I want Cass to be with us, because Cass had a fight with Morgan. She's a fourth beauty. I need to act, you know, and I was telling Trish that, but she didn't understand. Well, she did understand, I guess, after I got into a heated argument with her over it. because you had nothing to worry about, Trish. Your name never came up once. Nobody even looked at you. So you don't have to make moves. You could just chill out. Let somebody like me make the moves. You know, so that was my whole thing with the Jeffra vote-off. And again, paper strategy, there's nothing textbook about Survivor. Survivor, once you go in there, you have to adapt to the situation in front of you, and you have to plan accordingly. And that's what I was doing. I didn't give a shit if it was number 7 or number 9 or flipping on 5 or flipping on 3. To me, every single person there was a threat, right? But there was, you know, there were numbers. They were my numbers. They were against me. Whatever they were numbers. But each one of those numbers, I assigned a value to them. So each day, those values changed. One day, Jeffra was valuable to me because I needed her to vote with me to get Jeremiah out. And the next day, Jeffra was worthless to me. And that's exactly how I was playing the game, man. It was just day by day. It was like the stock market. Whoever was valuable to me at that, all I wanted was a voting block. So the most valuable people to me were the ones that were going to vote with me.
Well,
the ones
it
that
seemed to
vote
us.
with me, say it again?
It seemed to us as viewers, and you can tell us if this was actually true on the show or on the island. Trish seemed to be your most loyal companion. Like, it seemed like you had the most trust in her the whole time when you were out there. Is that true, or is Wu more that role?
Yeah, no. Trish was definitely, again, like I was telling you guys, where luck comes in, it's chemistry. Me and Trish had a chemistry. We had a bond. It was a genuine bond. Wu, we had a chemistry. It was also a genuine bond. However, Wu was really playing with the majority. Wherever the majority was, that's where Wu was going. And he proved that to me right from the beginning. And that's why I named him Weasel Wu. I was calling him Weasel Wu in the beginning because I thought he was being a weasel. Like, he was running around. He was hanging out with Cliff. And every time I asked him a question, he was like, yeah, okay, Tony. He would ignore me and go right back to Cliff because he knew Cliff had the numbers. So I was like, oh, this guy's like a little weasel. You know, he told me he was going to be on my side. He was going to team up with me. He was going to tell me what Cliff is talking about with Lindsay. And he never told me. I want to hear what Weasel Wu's saying and what Useless Cliff is saying. I called Cliff Useless because he never wanted to help me with stuff. So that's why I named him that. So yeah, so Wu was going around, you know, he was going around to where the majority was because he wanted to better his game. He wanted to advance in the game. So the only way you advance in the game is by being with the numbers. And that's what he was doing. But towards the end, you know, after that top 5 incident, that's when we formed a true real bond where we're saying, you know, we're going to stick together till the end. You know, that's when the bonds formed towards the end. But, I guess like I was saying, Trish, it was and here's what happened in the beginning too. When me, Cliff, and Wu formed a bond together in an alliance, a core alliance, I was tricking Trish. I needed to get information from the girl. So what I did was in the rice basket, there was a medallion, a wooden carved medallion on top of the rice basket lid, where it was just it was a block, but it was carved, and it looked like an idol. So, you know, and I was saying to myself, oh man, that might be an idol. So what I did was I pried it off the basket and I put it in my pocket. And then I start thinking, I'm like, damn, this can't be an idol because there's nothing carved on it. It doesn't say the rules to the show. It didn't come with any instructions. So I don't think it's an idol. So what I did, I went up to Trish and I said, you know, this was maybe a day later or 2 days later. And I said, hey, Trish, listen, you and I are on the bottom. I heard them talking, and they want to get rid of you first, and they want to get rid of you second. So guess what? I'm going to protect you. Here's an idol. And I gave her that fake thing. She had an ear-to-ear smile, like a child on Christmas morning, man. The biggest smile in the world. She's like, oh my God, you're so sweet. I can't believe you're doing this for me. Why would you do this for me? I was like, Trish, because we can flip the game together. So I gave her that idol, and I said, Trish, you got to let me know what's going on, though. I want to help you, but you got to help me back. And that's when she started telling me, okay, Lindsay and Sarah went looking for the idol. They started digging around the street by the water well, and she was giving me all kinds of information in the beginning. And then I started saying to myself, okay, eventually this lie's going to come back to me, and then I'm going to lose Trish, because right now, Trish, we fought right that second. She just fell in love with me. Not like that, you know,
Right.
Just as far as the game's concerned, she was like, wow, this guy just, you know, he just gave me an idol to save me in the game, that nobody's going to do that for me. So right then and then, that's it. I won her over 100%. So then, again, 2-3 days later, I'm saying to myself, okay, I got to get that idol back. So I was thinking of stealing it out of her bag, you know, because she hid it in her bag. And I said, you know what, I got to come up there, and I got to come up to her with another lie. So what I did, I pulled over to the side and I said, Trish, listen, I've been thinking that usually when I watch Survivor, every time there's an idol, there's some kind of clue with it, and some kind of instructions with it, and it tells you what the rules are for the immunity idol. That thing doesn't have anything, Trish. I really don't think it's an idol. And, I started playing it like that. She's like, really? I was like, yeah, Trish, I don't think it's an idol. She's like, well, you know what? Let me just hold on to it just in case. And I was like, okay, that's a good idea. But I don't think it's an idol, Trish, man. I'm so upset right now. And I played it off. And I played it off like I'm really genuine, that I really don't think it's an idol. And I gave it to her for the right reasons. So, and that's how, and then later on, eventually she knew what a real idol looked like, and she knew that was garbage. So, and she couldn't hold that against me because she knew, I was trying to do the right thing. I just didn't know any better. And that was how I came across. But from that point on, Trish became really tight with me, and that was it, man. And, and we shared a lot of stories together. And, again, just a genuine, natural bond, so Trish was definitely my strongest ally by far. And then was Wu. And then after that, I didn't really have allies. I just had numbers to vote people off.
So I guess, yeah, it's one of those things where it was really fortunate that you and Trish ended up on the same tribe at the swap.
Yeah, no, of course. But again, you adapt to the situation. So if Trish wasn't there and let's say Sarah was there, or let's say, Alexis or Jeremiah was there, you just don't know. You just don't know what happens. That's the crazy part of the game. So many variables and so you can put the same players, the same cast, 18 of us. You can let us play the game 100 times and you'll get 100 different scenarios and 100 different outcomes every single time. That's how crazy that kind of game is.
Well, let's talk about the swap, because actually I think that's one of the bigger pieces that we haven't talked about yet, because we keep bouncing around here. But so you wind up there, you have all the bronze, only 2 beauties. When did you decide that you were going to vote out Cliff instead of LJ? Because at first it seemed like you were just going to vote out LJ.
No. That was trick editing. That was trick editing. If you go back, we'll start. I'll answer your question. You said, when did I first decide to get rid of Cliff? Instantly. As soon as I seen who was on the tribe, I instantly grabbed LJ's pants and I started tugging down on his pants to let him know, like his pocket. So I was standing to his left. So my right hand was down by my pocket, and I tugged onto his jeans and I tugged down on him, like letting him know, like, listen, man, I got to talk to you the first chance you get. I want to make sure I get to him before anybody else does. And as soon as, I gave him that little sign, he knew that I was on board with him, and he knew that he was all ears. He wanted to hear what I had to say. And that's when we went to donuts. That's when we went to coffee. And when we went there, I was giving him donuts. I went through the coffee. I found the clue. And that's when everything began. So Trish started working on, but you didn't even have to work on anybody at that camp, We just telling me, listen, guys, you want to save yourself? Go with us. That's it. It's over. And that's pretty much what it was, I told LJ, listen, LJ, I want Cliff gone. This is what's going on with Cliff. I think he has the idol. So, and all along, everybody thought that Cliff had the idol. So that's what Sarah thought also. And that's why I told her I had to make the fake idol, because they were under the impression that Cliff found it, because Cliff used to go around by himself looking for crabs, and that's when I used to try to plant seeds and say, listen, I think he's got the idol. He's been looking for it, and I think he's got it, because he never takes his jacket off. So he's always hiding it in the jacket. That's what I used to tell him. So that's what I was telling LJ. I said, listen, LJ, he's going to think that right now, because there's 5 of us, we're going to get rid of you guys one by one, and he's going to go home with the idol. So that was the seed that I was planting, and LJ said about the idol, too. But it was instantly that I wanted a Cliff Con. What they did with editing, if you go and see it, what they did, they took a scene from post-merge when I was really talking about getting rid of LJ. There was a part where I was saying, you know what, LJ's a threat. It's time for me to strike now. They took that scene and they used that all the way in the beginning of the swap. If you go see it, it's the same exact scene. I have a full beard like I did post-merge, and my buff, they colored it to purple. So it could be the Solana purple. So it could be the color purple instead of the black merge tribe buff. And you'll see, Jeff Pittman pointed that out. If you go see his tweets, he's the one that tweeted it. He showed that they used that. Yeah, they used that same confessional all the way in the beginning because they wanted drama. Obviously they're not going to show that everybody wants Cliff gone because there would be no drama. But so I wanted Cliff gone instantly. I mean, you've seen it. I wanted Cliff gone since day 3 when I was saying I got to kill the lion and his cubs.
Right.
So yeah, they positioned it that this was like Lindsay's move, and we weren't sure if you were going to go with it. But it sounds like you were, Trish's move. Yeah, not Lindsay's.
Yeah.
But it was you two were like at the beginning, like right away, and I guess that's why LJ didn't play his idol.
Yeah, no, of course. LJ knew 100%. Like I said, from the second we got the buffs and we knew we were in the same tribe, I'm already tugging on his jeans, letting him know, listen, man, I want to work with you. And, and that's from that second on. Now, there was a scene also where they were showing me telling Trish, but we're 5 deep, Trish. No, I didn't say Trish. We're 5 deep. To making it look like, why would you want to vote off Cliff, but that was me telling Cliff that. But they use some kind of mirror, they use like some kind of mirror photography, because you'll see my tattoos on my right side of my chest now, you know, because they cut Cliff out and they use Trish there, and they use like a mirror image. They like flip-flop me around. But at that scene, I was really talking to Cliff, because I remember vividly telling Cliff, because Cliff came up to me and said, "Hey, Tony, do you think we should get rid of Trish? Because Trish and Lindsay are having a fight and they're causing turmoil here, and the next person's LJ." And I'm telling Cliff, "But we're 5 deep. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to turn against each other? We're 5 deep." And they used that to make it look like I was talking to Trish about Cliff. Get it?
Yeah, no.
All the behind the scenes stuff.
So
if you go back to that swap scene where we're talking about voting off Cliff, you're going to see the two things that I'm telling you about, the two discrepancies, where you're going to see the one where I'm saying, yeah, it's time to strike now for LJ. You're going to see that I was in that little tree. It was a weird-looking tree, and it was real weird. You're going to see me with a full beard with a purple bandana, and then if you fast-forward it back to the episode where I really voted off LJ, post-merge, that was the same exact confessional. And then you'll see again when I'm saying we're 5 deep, you're going to see how they reversed me like a mirror image to make it look like I was talking to Trish, but at that moment I was really talking to Cliff. So, you know, editing has a story. They have a job. You know, they have a job to do. They have a story to tell. And at that moment, you know, that was the best thing for them to do, to create the drama.
So when you were watching the show, what was like the biggest surprise? Was there something you saw that you didn't know was going on, or is it more that the way they could make you look? Like, what surprised you most?
I guess the editing, like, I'm like, wow, man, they went through that extent, you know, like to make it look like, you know, I really wanted this guy gone now, and when I really didn't, you know, like, so that's like, wow, man, because I thought everything is like chronological order, they go in pieces, and when I seen they pulled something post-merge and played it pre-merge, I'm like, oh, shit, you know, I guess that, you know, that's what they do to create their story, you know, and again, like, for instance, they'll ask you a question, you know, to get their story, because they don't know which way the story's going. So they'll ask you, hey, so what do you think about John? And I'm like, well, I think John's an asshole. And then later on, it's like, but
You're right.
John, you know, it's John, yeah. And then they'll say, well, in real life, what would you think about John? I said, well, you know, in real life, John's a nice guy. You know, he's personable, and they'll cut out in real life, and they'll just say John's a personable person. So whichever way they want to go, that's the footage they're going to use. So they're pretty slick in the way they ask the same question in two different ways, so they can use it. You know, like, for instance, if they say, if Cliff wasn't here, who would be your biggest threat? And then I'll say, oh, LJ would definitely be the biggest threat. And then they'll use that footage to make it look like I was really talking about LJ, but I wasn't. I was just answering the question they asked me at that moment. You know?
Right.
So I was surprised with that. Pretty much, I wasn't really surprised about everything else. I mean, I was very surprised how LJ wasn't trying to flip on me when I flipped on him. I really thought that he was talking behind my back, trying to set the seeds in already. But maybe they didn't show that. Maybe they just didn't show it in the editing. But I really thought that LJ would be, you know, trying to do something behind my back. And as far as what I saw, you know, from watching it at home, he wasn't. And I really thought, because I saw him talking to Trish, I saw him talking to Cass, and I saw him talking to Jeffrey. So I thought he was planting seeds that we got to get rid of Tony. But they never showed any of that.
So I take it you weren't surprised that Wu actually did a bit of plotting when he was on the reward with Spencer and Tasha?
No. I mean, you know, it's like, come on, Wu, man. And then I was like, come on, Wu, that don't make sense. And, you know, they didn't show, oh, I was grilling them, man. I was breaking them down. They didn't show all of it, but I was there, I was like, Wu, how are you telling me this right now, man? How can you sit there and tell me this? And then he's like, yeah, man. You know, and I just kept going on and on and on. And you know, it's like, come on, man. Even if it didn't even matter what he told me, to be honest with you. Even if he told me, yeah, this is what these guys were doing, but I wasn't agree with it, I would still not trust it. I would still say no way. Because I know what it's like when you go on reward challenges. You know, that's your only time where you can plot against somebody without them listening to you. You could be comfortable. You could think rational. You can go through scenarios. You can go through all of that stuff. So, you know, when you, and then when you go on the challenges, let me tell you, man, when you're eating a chicken wrap, or like Jeffrey was eating the buffalo wings, or whatever she was eating, the ribs, man, you have such a euphoric feeling that no matter what anybody tells you fall in love with the plan. You're like, oh my God, that's the plan. and it's true, man, because you're just feeling your endorphins in your body. You're just like all excited, and you're all happy, and it's like an aphrodisiac. So no matter what anybody proposes to you, you're gonna jump all over it. And I know that feeling. That's what it felt like when I was on the challenges. So when you go on a challenge, I know what's going to happen. And it happens all the time, man. You know, you go on a challenge, That's what happens because you're like so happy that like, oh, yes, that sounds like a beautiful plan. We can make it happen, and you're going for it. You know, and the feelings have a lot to do with it, man.
So you're drunk on chicken wings.
Absolutely, man. And then you come back and you feel like you're invincible because you just made a solid plan with these people. And, you know, and that's why when, you know, every
drunk
time
on chicken wings and horny for strategy.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And you see me, before I even put a chicken wrap in my mouth, I'm already talking to Spencer and Sherman. So, hey guys, what are we going to do? What are you thinking?
So, I'm sure you've dealt with many liars in your job. How bad was Wu compared to what you see on your daily life? Because even watching it as a viewer, Andy and I were sitting there saying, wow, he might be the worst liar I've ever seen.
No, there's some real bad liars, man. There's much worse liars than Wu, man. Let me tell you, there's people, you know, like you'll stop them for whatever reason, and you frisk them and you pat them down, and you find like fucking 20 bags of coke in their jacket, and they look at you like, that's not mine. That's not mine. I don't know what that is. Yeah, and then you're like, all right, what do you mean that's not yours? He's like, yo, man, I just bought this jacket from the thrift store, man, and I just put it on. I'm like, oh, all right, you bought it from the thrift store, you know? So I'm like, all right, hold on, man, I believe you, because what you don't want to do with these people is get into like a physical fight with them. You don't want to get dirty with them. Most of these people have AIDS, they're drug users, they're abusers, and you don't want to get into a confrontation with them, so you try to be slick. So what I tell them is, when they tell me shit like that, and that's a true scenario, that's why I'm using that, where I found like 20 bags of coke in his jacket, and he's telling me that he just bought the jacket from the thrift store, so he had no idea what was in the pocket. It's not his. So I told him, I said, all right, hold on, man, which thrift store? And he was like, oh, it's around the block on Kennedy Boulevard and SIP, whatever, right? So I said, all right, let me call him up, man. Let me call him up to make sure that you bought it there. So what I do is I pretend I dial the fucking number. I go on my phone, and I'm talking in front of him, and he's like, okay, so you do remember the guy, and you guys, so you sold him this jacket? You guys don't check the pockets? I was like, oh, come on, because now you're going to get this guy in trouble. You know, so I'm playing it off like this person is agreeing. The person at the thrift store is agreeing that this guy did buy the jacket from there. And you could see his face, like, glowing, like, oh, yes, somebody must have bought a jacket, and they think it's me. So I'm like, so then I hang up the phone. I was like, all right, I'm just going to need you to come in and testify that the guy did buy the jacket, okay? I said, all right now, thank you very much. So I pretend I hang up the phone, and then I tell him, listen, John, man, I believe you. The person at the store did say that you did buy a jacket, but right now I still got to take you in, and we got to do the paperwork. But you know, it's going to get dismissed because the people did tell me that. So as soon as I put the handcuffs on, I bring them into the cell, we fingerprint them, we process them, send them to jail. But my report says everything that happened. None of the bullshit that I told them. I just say that it would be a peaceful arrest, you know. So you know, like you always got you got to outwit them. You know, they try to outwit you, but you outwit them. So yeah, there's some bad liars, man. There's some bad liars out there, but yeah, Wu was up there. Wu was up there when and says when he can't even look at me when he was talking. He was looking at the ground,
like a kid, huh?
Yeah, you know that's what happens, man. When you're a genuine person like that, man, it's hard for you to lie, you know. And that's what I was telling you guys too. And I hate doing that. I hate looking at somebody in the face and lying to them, you know. But in a situation like at work, I do that all the time because if these people are lying to me, I'm going to lie back to them, you know. But I'm going to lie to them harder. And you know, and that's from experience.
So yeah, Wu comes back with this plan to vote out. I believe it was Trish at the time. When did you decide to vote out Trish?
Tasha. Oh, you mean later on? Oh, after the lies. All right. Oh, yeah. No, Trish. And that's another thing. I went to Wu first with the Trish thing. I went to Wu and I said, "Hey, Wu, what are you thinking, man?" And he was like, "I don't know. What are you thinking?" I was like, "Listen, man, we're at a point right now. We can't let Spencer win another challenge." I said, we're at a point now where it's getting down to the final three. If we go with Trish, she beats us. She's the most likable one here next to Spencer. So I started talking to him like that, and he's looking at me. He's like, you know what? I was thinking Trish also. And I'm saying to myself, oh, wow, man. I don't know if it was true or not, whether he was really thinking Trish or not, but I'm going to run with it. I'm like, oh, really? Well, all right, man, whatever you want to do, man. You want to get Trish out? We'll get Trish out. Because I wanted to pit it on him. That he's the one that wanted Trish out and not me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But all along, it was me that wanted Trish out. I needed to go against her. And the reason I decided to go against her was just like what I said. There was 4 of us left. It was Spencer. He had the immunity necklace, so we couldn't touch him. But we didn't want him to win another one because I would have brought him to the final 3 and he would have won the game. So as far as I was concerned is we needed somebody to stay there that could try to beat Spencer in the challenges. I know Trish she wasn't a challenge beast. She wasn't good at puzzles. She wasn't good at challenges. So I said to myself, Trish right now is not valuable to me at all. Yes, she's my friend. Yes, I formed genuine bonds with her. Yes, I swore to her on my dead dad's grave and my family. And when I did swear on that, my heart was in the right place at the time. I really meant it. And it was real and it was genuine. But now again, the game changes and I can't stay on the sinking ship and drown. So I got to jump ship. And that's when I decided I got to go against Trish and vote her off because I need Cass, because Cass sucks. Nobody's going to vote for her. I go to the end with her, I win. I need Wu because I need Wu to help me beat Spencer in the next challenge. So Trish was the least valuable person at that moment. Cass was the most valuable person at that moment because I want to go to the end with Cass because I'm beating her in the end. And that's what happened, and that's why I voted Trish. And the reason I did put her name down at the end, it's like, a lot of people saying, why would you even put her name down? You didn't even need to put her name down. There was three of them, she would have went home. And I'm saying, why wouldn't I put her name down? Why am I going to try to be a weasel and pretend that I didn't want her out when I did want her out? Especially when I didn't play my idol to protect her.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I put her name down, and I wanted to make it clear that, hey, Trish, I'm sorry, I needed you out because it was strategic. And I left that in my confessional. And they showed, I don't know, did you guys watch the confessional? It was a secret scene where I said, Trish, please forgive me. This was based solely on strategy.
Yeah, actually,
I think we did. I think we went back and watched it because I remember that we discussed that might have been your reason for doing it, and then we saw the secret scene afterwards.
Right.
Yes. So yeah, that was so yeah. Wu didn't come up to me and make a plan, and they didn't trick me into that, and I didn't get blindsided. That was my plan. I believe every single vote off. It was I had 90% to do with it, or 100% to do with the vote offs. Every single one after the merge.
Yeah, no, there's not actually the whole game. Anytime you voted for somebody, they went home that night. You're the only person that didn't not vote somebody out.
Yeah, except for Cass in the end, and I couldn't vote her out.
Right, because you weren't voting. Well, you had cast a theoretical vote for her, right? That's why they don't even bother voting.
Yeah, exactly.
So speaking of Cass, you were saying that you needed her there because Cass sucks. She's convinced that she would have gotten at least 4 votes against Wu. Is that possible? No. Nobody votes for Cass. You can interview every single one of those jurors. Nobody would have voted for Cass. No way, no how. Cass gets no votes, no matter who she's at the end with. If I was at the end with Cass, I wouldn't even have said a word. I would have just sat down and just looked at the jurors and laughed. Guys, do you see what's sitting next to me? Do you see what's sitting next to me? And I would have just laughed my ass off. And I would have just sat there and I would have just mocked her. Everything she would have said, I would just make fun of her. Like I used to do in the tribal councils toward the end. There was one point where they didn't show none of that, man. I was literally making fun of her so bad that the jurors were all dying laughing. I was like, Jeff, this girl is an injustice to this game. She doesn't belong here. She doesn't deserve to be here. She sucks at this game. I said, Jeff, she comes to camp and she complains that you ask her questions. She feels you're picking on her. She feels you're harassing her. You're the host of this game and she feels you're harassing her. The host is harassing Cass because you're asking her a question. And I was just going off on her, and everybody in the jurors were laughing. And they were just like, they were all just mocking her. And you could, and see, that's another thing too, like for instance, that game, you don't want people to see your ugly colors. You don't want them to see how you're fighting with somebody and you're arguing with somebody. But when it's somebody like Cass and nobody else likes, you fighting with her just gives you that much more points, because they're rooting for you. They're like, yeah, fuck her up, because that's what they would want to tell her. So, and the more I was telling her, like the more I was dissing her, the more happier the jurors were getting, and the more fuel they were giving me, and the more shit I was saying, man. I just kept going off on her. So if only you would have gotten to the final 2 with Cass, we would have saw like an all llama final jury performance.
Oh man, you know what? It would have been brutal for that girl. Nobody, and again, and don't get me wrong. I'm knocking her game and everything, but as a person, there was times out there when me and Cass had long walks on the beach. We talked about her daughter. We talked about my daughter. We talked about families. We talked about life, and we had a good time together. But when you start trying to justify dumb moves you made, and Spencer would pull me to the side and says, Tony, you got to tell me the truth, man. Do you really think that was strategic on her part? And I was like, yeah, Spencer, I really do. And, and he's looking at me and he knows I'm fucking lying. And he's looking at me and it's burning him up. And then later on, when I didn't care about it no more, when I didn't care if the truth came out that I didn't care about Cash, because after we started fighting with Cash, at that point I didn't give a shit no more, because I knew, I made it clear to myself that she's going to the end with me, and I don't care about her jury vote because she's not going to be on the jury. She's going to be right here with me, sitting at final 3. So that's why at that point I didn't even give a shit. I was like, Cash, you're the worst fucking player ever in this game. Nothing you did was strategic. Everything you did was emotional. And that's what Spencer was looking at me. He was like, wow, man, you know, like it's too late now, you know, because she ain't going to side with Spencer. She doesn't want to go to the end with Spencer. Yeah. You know, you can't go to the end with Spencer.
So did Wu just not pick up on how objectionable Cass was, or was there, what did you sell to Wu that made him vote Cass?
See, here's the thing. I mean, you'll see 1 second Wu knows. He's very well aware that Cass is the best person to go to the end with. He even said it. I'd be the stupidest player to go with Tony. You know, he said it in his own words.
As soon as we saw that, we knew you were going to the end with him. As soon as
we were really high-fiving.
Oh, man. But, so what happened was, you know, in a lot of tribal councils that you didn't see as fans, there was, like I said, Spencer was always trying to get me out. He was always standing up and saying, guys, open your eyes. You don't see what Tony's doing to you guys. You got to open your eyes. Wu, you're his goat. You're following him all around. And he's calling Wu a goat. And like maybe 2-3 tribal councils, he called Wu a goat. And Wu would stay there and fight with Spencer and say, listen, Spencer, in this game, you don't always have to be first in command. Right now, I'm second in command. My loyalty to Tony is there. You know, he's not going nowhere without me. You know, he's making moves because of me. You know, I'm not his goat. And that's what he was saying. So at the last, when it was the final 3, and it was me, Wu, and Cass left, I already had my speeches in my mind. Had I lost that challenge, if Cass would have won, I knew what I was going to tell Cass. If Wu would have won, I knew what I was going to tell Wu. So I already had it pre-planned to where I was going to tell these people if they won the challenge. So Wu happened to win the challenge, and I knew exactly what I was going to tell him. So I approached Wu, and you know, it was like maybe 3 hours I was talking to Wu, and they only showed 2 seconds of it because they didn't want it to show that I was convincing them, because then you guys would say, oh shit, he's going to take Tony. So they wanted to make it look real quick that I just talked to him about the Taekwondo thing, you know. So they didn't really show most of it. But I sat there and I broke it down to him piece by piece, detail by detail. I said, Wu, you came into this game day 1. What are your moves? What moves did you do this whole game? Your moves, not who you voted with, but what were your moves? And he just sat there with a blank face, and I said, exactly. I said, everybody in tribal council, they called you a goat. They knew you were a goat. You didn't do nothing. You followed me. What did you tell these people at tribal councils? You told them you were here to play an honest game. You were here to play with loyalty and with integrity. And that's exactly what you've been doing up to this point. If you vote me out now, what are you going to tell these jurors, man? What is your game plan? Don't tell them loyalty, honor, and integrity, because you don't have that. So if you don't have the loyalty part, the honor part, and the integrity part, what do you have? You have nothing. You have absolutely nothing, Wu. If you go with somebody like Cash, they're not going to give you no votes. They're going to give everything to Cash. You have 0 chance of winning. And I continued on telling them to why. I said, if you go with me, I have blood on my hands. I backstabbed every single one of those people there. They all disliked me. You know, that's what I was telling them. I said, so you have a much better chance of taking me, because now if you take me, because Cass and I both have blood on our hands, but taking me is going to show them that your game plan this whole time was honor, integrity, and loyalty. If you don't take me, you throw it out the window, so you have nothing. So you might as well take me and show them that you had your honor, your integrity, and your loyalty, and you took me because I had blood on my hands, so you know I'm not getting the votes. So that was my pitch to him, but in a much more detailed version and a much longer version. And I guess it sunk in. And, you know, and I did to throw that Taekwondo thing in there. I say, and Wu, listen, man, you know, all of America is watching you right now. All your students are watching you now. You've been preaching honor, integrity, and loyalty this whole time in tribal councils, because we didn't know what was going to air and what was not going to air. But that's what he kept saying. And all the tribal councils when Spencer kept calling him a goat. So that's what I kept throwing in his face, and I kept throwing in his face, and I guess it made sense, because if he did get rid of me, he has no game plan no more. All he has is somebody that has blood on their hands, which is Cash, but he has nothing else. If he takes me, he has somebody that has blood on their hands, plus he has the whole honor, integrity, and loyalty thing that he was going with since day 1. So that's what I guess sank in, because it is a feasible argument to make. I mean, you know, us as viewers and us, you know, we're watching, we're like, hell no, it doesn't make sense. But when you're there, man, and your emotions are running high, you know, and you're like, you know what, man, it does make sense, man. Tony does have blood on his hands. They don't like Tony. And plus, I'll get more points by taking somebody like Tony instead of Cass, you know. So, you know, he talked himself into it.
So that's a pretty good pitch, but... How nervous were you that he was going to take you? Were you like shocked when he?
Oh yeah, man. I was frozen stiff, man. I think even if he voted me off, I think I would have still been sitting there today. I would have still been stuck on that post sitting down. I was so nervous because especially when he was like, Jeff, I don't want to hear nothing. I just want to get to the vote. And I'm like, oh man, he's gonna get rid of me. He just doesn't want to have any regrets. He just wants to get it over with. He doesn't want to look at me. He doesn't want to talk to me. He just wants to go put my name down and be done with it. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I just sat there frozen. And all that was going in my mind was since day one where I shook his hand, I shook Cliff's hand. And from that point on, everything I did in the game meant nothing. Meant absolutely nothing. And that's how I was thinking. All the fucking things I went through, all the idols I found, all my busting my ass, all the weight I lost. I lost 45 pounds out there. I was dying, man. Everything. It was just going, you know, like when they show you in the movies when somebody's about to die, their life flashes right in front of them. That's what was happening to me. That's exactly what was happening to me at that tribal council. Everything that I worked so hard for is gone right here, right now. It's done. It's over with. It's no different from me being voted off first. You know, and that's what I was saying, and I was hurt, man. And then when it showed Cass, I still didn't know what was going on. I was like, hold on, so you want to go with Cass to the end, or you go with Cass off? So, because at that moment, you don't hear nothing, man. You really don't hear nothing. You just, and I'm listening to Jeff talking, but I don't know what he's saying. You know, it was bad, man. I was really bad. I was scared.
And meanwhile, Cass probably thinks that he voted for you because that's the only smart move. So, like, was she blindsided or?
She said, I heard her in an interview. She said she was expecting Wu to vote for me, to keep me,
oh, okay.
because she says, yeah, whoever goes into Wu's ear last is the one Wu goes with, and you know that's what she was saying. But yeah, and I mean, Cass should have really believed that she was going to the end because no, everybody knew. Nobody was voting for Cass.
Yeah. And backing up just like a little bit before that.
Okay.
When did you know for sure that it was going to be a Final Two? Did Spencer's speech convince you that it was going to be a Final Two season? Or had that come up earlier?
Yeah, it had come up earlier because just, see, this is the thing too. With a lot of players in the game, they were all breaking the days down, the hours down. What day it is back in the States, what time is it back in the States, how many more challenges we have left, how many immunity challenges, and I'm like, what the, I can't even think about that stuff. I'm over here trying to think what I got to get rid of next. And you guys are trying to break down what day it is in the United States and whose birthday it is. I'm like, get the hell out of here. So, you know, every single day they were keeping track of the dates and stuff, you know, the calendar. And I just never got into that. I was like, are you kidding me right now? It's just too much to be thinking about that. And it's so irrelevant in this game. Who gives a shit what's going on in the real life? We got to, you know, I'm over here trying to think about what I got to do to better my game. So they were all breaking it down. They were like, wait, this doesn't make sense. We're on day so-and-so, and this should only be for every 3 days there's a challenge, and every 2 days there's an immunity. And they were going off talking about that stuff. And I really had no idea what the hell they were talking about. So, you know, Cass and Spencer were the ones that really knew the game. So they kept talking about it's got to be like a Final Two. And I wondered if Lindsay had anything to do with it. You know, that's what we kept saying. There was no family visits up to that point. So we were all saying it's got to be a Final Two. It's got to be a Final Two. And what happened was it was perfect for me because Spencer was saying there's a Final Two. I was like, maybe that's why my idol could play until Final Three. I was like, that's going to suck if it's a Final Two. So I was planting that seed again. Like, oh, that's why. So I kept pushing that idea, that bluff. And it made more sense at that point that I could play my idol for Final Three because it's a Final Two. And that's when Spencer was pitching that to me, that's when he was like, yeah, it does make sense now. And that's why you could play your idol to Final Three, which was perfect, you know? But again, I still wasn't 100%. You know, I wasn't 100% that it was going to be a Final Two. You know, until we went to Tribal, and then when it was Final Three, he was like, all right, rest up. Tomorrow's your last challenge. And I'm like, oh, shit. You know, like, oh, my goodness. So that, and that's what also convinced Spencer a little bit more that my idol was good until Final Three, because you never know what he could have done. He could have done something. If he knew that my idol was no good on Final Three, he could have went to all of them and did something. Who knows?
And when did you come up with the idea for that bluff?
I love that lie, by the way.
That was awesome.
Actually.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
But I guess as soon as I found it, I asked production like 1,010,000 questions, and a lot of those questions were, do I have to tell these people what this thing does? No. If they ask Jeff Probst, is he going to tell them? Jeff doesn't know anything about the idol. If he asks you guys, are you going to tell him? It's not in our business to tell anybody about it. It's your idol. You found it. You do whatever you want with it. You have the clues. You have the instructions. You do what you want. It's yours. And that's when I say, you know what? I'm not telling nobody about this idol, because if you tell them, they can always plan an attack on it. If you don't tell them, they can't plan an attack on something they don't know about. So I said, let me just keep this with me. So when we were at 6, I was saying to myself, oh my God, man, I don't want to play any of my idols. I don't want to play any of my idols, because this is what I'm going to do. So it was right then and then at that final, when I was at the 6, where I said, I got to save my idol. I got to save my normal idol, because I want to bluff the special idol for 4. And the way I carried through with that bluff was, when we were final 5, remember when Trish went home? I knew Trish was going home. We all knew Trish was going home at that point. Everybody wanted Trish out. They didn't care about Tony at that point. They just wanted to get rid of Trish. At that point, I didn't have to play my idol. But I wanted to send a subliminal message to these people that I was playing with. Hey, guys, listen. I have the idol. I don't need to play it, but I don't care for it. I'm not coming here for souvenirs. This is the last time I could use it. I'm using it. I don't want it. And the same way, the next tribal council, I don't want my stupid special idol. I'm using it. So I wanted to make it clear to them that, listen, guys, I'm not bluffing. I'm not trying to go home with a souvenir. When it comes time for me to use it, I'm using it, because there's no reason for me to keep it anymore. So I didn't want them to get any ideas like, hey, listen, let's just call Tony's bluff. He might not use the idol. He might try to keep it. And I didn't want them to think that. And that's why I sacrificed my normal idol at 5, just to show them that, listen, I'm playing my idol when it's the last time I could use it. I don't care. I don't care if none of you are voting for me. I know none of you are voting for me, but I'm getting rid of it. And that's what I told Jeff. I said, Jeff, I found it on the island. I found this idol on the island. It's staying on the island. And I gave it to him. And I just wanted to send that message that next time around comes, I'm pulling out my special idol and I'm using it, because I don't want it. And that's why I did what I did. So I was like, I was always thinking 4 or 5 steps ahead. Whether that's what somebody else was thinking is a different story. But that's what I was thinking in my head, because if I was in their shoes, that's what I would think. If somebody used the idol, I'd be like, oh shit, yeah, he's going to get rid of it. He doesn't care about it. He's getting rid of it. So that's how I was trying to play the game. I was always putting my feet in their shoes and saying, what would I do in a situation like that? And the same thing, that it stems right back to like the LJ vote. That's what I said. If I was LJ and I seen all these people advertising they want to vote Tony off, I'm going to go to them and say, hey guys, you want to get rid of Tony? Vote with me. Let's get rid of him. So that's why I put my feet in everybody. In a strategic game, the way you beat your opponent is by thinking like them. And that's as simple as that.
And despite what production was telling you, were you ever worried that Probst was going to blow up your spot with the idols at the end?
You know what? There was a point where I was saying to myself, like, if they ask him what is he going to tell him? Like, I don't know what it does, like, so that's why as soon as I went in there, the first thing I said, I don't know if you remember, I said, hey Jeff, my bag of tricks is getting a little bit heavy, so today's going to be out with the old and in with the new. So I wanted to send a message to Jeff, like, hey Jeff, please don't fuck with me, man. I'm here. I'm trying to pull off a stunt. Just leave me alone. And again, I got to give it to them. It's our game. It's our game. They're not helping me. They're not aiding me. I'm not telling anybody what my idols do. They're just staying neutral. Hey, listen, guys. If you want to find out what it does, take your chances. Make a move on him. You know what I mean? Don't ask us what it does. If he's not going to tell you, it's his fucking game. He found it. If we wanted you to know what it does, we would have advertised the clue to everybody. So they pretty much left it on me. So if I wanted to lie about it, it was on me. If I came up with the idea to lie about it, that's good on me. Kudos to me that I came up with that. So, and that's what they did. They left me alone, man, and I was so happy that they did. And again, I asked a lot of questions.
I like that you basically played offense against Probst. You stopped him before he could ruin your plan.
Oh, yeah, but him, man. He would have just said, hey, Tony, what the hell are you talking about? You can't, that idol is no good at me. That's when I would have shitted on myself, man. He would have said that, I would have lost it. And as a matter of fact,
Probst will almost always, if it's for an entertainment thing, like Probst is always worried about the show being entertaining. So if you're going to try some entertaining shit, Probst is going to let you do it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and that's why
that was a good plan on your part, because...
Yeah, no, again, that idol is not that powerful. A lot of people say, "Oh, that's too powerful." You could flush that idol easily, man. It's so easy. Hey, everybody, like for instance, if we all wanted Spencer out, let's say for example, we all wanted Spencer out. Hey, Tony, let's vote Spencer out. Okay, I'm gonna vote Spencer out. So everybody knows I'm voting Spencer out, except Spencer, right? So now everybody else, including Spencer, would throw their votes on Tony. Hey, Spencer, let's get rid of Tony. That's what I would do. I would tell Spencer, vote for Tony. I would vote for Tony. Trish, vote for Tony. Ooh, vote for Tony because Tony's voting for Spencer. So, we throw all our votes to Tony, and when Tony plays a special idol, wherever he plays, whatever trick it does, whoever name he puts down is the one going home. And we all want Spencer down anyway, and that's the name Tony's putting down, so let's all throw our votes to Tony. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really simple. And that's just one scenario. That's just one quick scenario that would work. Because you know what? That's exactly what I would do. If I knew Spencer had the special idol, I would go up to Spencer and say, Spencer, who you want out tonight? And Spencer says, Woo. I said, okay, great. We're all going to vote for Woo, Spencer. All right. So I have Spencer believing that we're going to vote off Woo. Now I tell my alliance, hey, listen, guys, you want to get rid of Woo? And they're like, okay, let's get rid of Woo. That's who Spencer's getting rid of. All right. So we're all going to throw our votes onto Spencer. Hey, Woo, throw your vote onto Spencer. Spencer's going to vote off Trish. Okay, great. Guess who's going home? Who's going home? The idol's gone. It's real simple to get rid of the idol. Real simple. So that's why it was just better that I didn't tell nobody nothing about the idol until it got towards the end. And that's when I started bluffing about what it does and what I could do with it.
Yeah, it turned out its true power was the mystery of it. That nobody really knew what was happening.
Absolutely. That was the biggest thing. Not knowing what to plan for. That was the scariest thing, man. Especially, and then the bag of tricks, and again, I always told them lies. Like, I would always play mind games with them. I would always raise a reasonable doubt in their minds. And, when you raise a reasonable doubt to people, it's so much easier just to put that person to the side. Like, you don't want to try to think what the hell this guy is talking about, if he's telling the truth, if he's telling lies. You rather just go to a sure plan, Like, you rather go for a sure thing, something you know. You know who doesn't have this. You know Trish doesn't have that. You know Spencer doesn't have that. Instead of Tony, damn, what could he have? What could he be doing? What could he have, Is he telling the truth? Is he telling lies? So when I found the idol, like, I would describe the idol to, like, Cass, putting a smirk, like, with a smirk on my face to make it look like I'm lying. I was like, yeah, it's a brass idol. It has engravings in the back, and it's like on a shoestring. It's a weird-looking idol. She's like, yeah, that's what it looks like. I say, yep, that's what it looks like. And I would pretend, and I would say it in a way where I want her to think I'm lying. So the day that I pulled it out, they're going to be like, holy shit, this guy was telling the truth. And it looks like he was lying. And the same reason, that's the same way that I could tell him that I was for Final Four. So they could say, you know what, he's probably telling the truth again. It just looked like he was lying. And that's what I would do all the time. And my phrase would be, I'm going to make you believers. I kept telling them that. Every time they didn't believe me about something, I said, you know what, I'm going to make you a believer. And sure enough, I made them believers, man. I made them all believers.
Yeah, they believed at the end when everybody but Tasha voted for you. So you get to the final jury against Wu. How confident are you at that point?
Oh, no, final two, I wasn't confident at all when these people were grilling me. I wasn't confident at all, man. For the 9 months that I was home, I didn't think I had it in the bag. And if I did have it in the bag, I would think it was going to be a 5-4 vote. I really did. I wasn't confident at all, man, because they really didn't give me a chance to, like, talk. They really didn't give me a chance to explain myself to why I did what I did. Like, they were pretty much just, battering me and beating me down, but they didn't want me to, if you see it, they didn't give me a chance. They just said, like Sarah, for example, she told me, she says, I don't know what your badge means to you, but to me, and I want to think, hey, Sarah, shut up, man. You're the one who broke your promise. I never broke my promise. I never broke my promise to you. I wanted you to come with me, and you're the one who told everybody I have a fake idol and vote for Tony. You broke your promise to me, But she didn't give me a chance to talk. So Morgan, I thought I had Morgan's vote because Morgan said, I don't know how you do it, Tony, how you have men in your back pocket, this and that. I thought I had Morgan's vote. Who was the next one? The next one was LJ. And LJ, I thought I gained his vote because he let me explain to him. And I said, LJ, listen, man, I thought you were going to get rid of Wu. I got real scared of you. You're a strategic threat, and that's why I did what I did. I didn't mean it. It was impersonal. And then he says, yeah, I could respect that. And I was like, all right, cool. I got his vote. And then, and then Jeffra, own your game. Just own it. When you looked at me and you told me you want to just own it, you blindsided me. And I said, of course I own that. I want to own that. That was my move to get you out. I had to get you out. But then she sort of said, you're a villain. So I was like, no, I'm not going to say I'm a villain because the whole game, I was trying to portray myself as heroic, as a person that was trying to keep our alliance strong. And I was getting rid of people that were compromising our alliance, like LJ, saying he was going to go against Wu, like Jeffra, saying she told her she was going to flip on us. So that's what I was trying to portray the whole time. I didn't want them to look at me as a villain, except for the Trish. When I backstabbed Trish, that was the only time, and I told them when I first walked in that they didn't show it on TV, but I said it. Listen, I broke my promises to the people that were going to break their promises to first. The only person that I hurt and I broke my promise to first was Trish, and I'm very sorry for that. You know, but they got rid of that. But I told her that, but she let me have it in the end anyway. And you know, what am I going to tell the lady when she's looking at me with tears in her eyes, crying about, you know, about my promises? So what am I going to tell her? No, it wasn't worth it. When I'm sitting at final two, trying to win $1 million, of course I'm going to say it was worth it. No, yes, it was, Trish.
That was my favorite answer of yours too. I think Andy and I both said that in our finale podcast.
Hey, what else am I going to say, man? What can I say to her? No. And then she's going to be like, okay, you're right, it ain't worth it, and that's why you're not getting $1 million. You know, I would have been like, oh my God.
Yeah, I do wonder if that answer helped sway some people back to your side, you know, because you finally gave them the answers they were looking for. It's interesting that you say that they didn't give you a chance to talk, because that's what it looked like to me, and I was just wondering if that was editing or not. But for real, they weren't really giving you much opportunity to answer questions, huh?
Yeah, and afterwards, you know, to come to find out, like, they all had their minds made up already in Ponderosa. They already know who they're voting for.
So they
before
didn't
they even go to tribal. Yeah, before they even go to tribal council, you know, the production, Jeff and all them, and they're like, all right, so Spencer, who you voting for? Trish, who you voting for and why, and this and that, what are you going to say, you know? And, you know, like, for instance, Trish told me, she was like, oh yeah, you know, when they asked me, I was like, Tony, because he deserves it, he played a great game, and, you know, what he did was all strategic, it wasn't personal, and I'm over it, you know? And they were like telling her, well, we need you to think back to what it felt like when he backstabbed you. It's like, oh, that motherfucker, you know what I mean? And that's what she gave him, you know? But she already knew who she was voting for. So I don't think my answer even mattered at that point, you know. I think they, you know, according to what they told me after the fact, that they already knew who they were voting for. You know, so, and that's all for drama. And, you know, with the Spencer speech, it was, you know, at the time there, I was like, oh my God, you know, like, at the time, without knowing after, like, I'm telling you guys what I know now after the fact, you know, like what they told me that they already knew. But at that time, I didn't know what's going on in Ponderosa. I didn't know what was going on. I just thought I was done. And then, you know, when Spencer stood up and Spencer was talking to them, I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what I wanted to say. I just couldn't say it, you know, I just couldn't say it. So, and, you know, when he said that, I was like, oh man, please, people, listen to Spencer. You know, he's pretty much telling you guys, take your emotions out of the damn game and just give credit where credit is due. Because they all knew what I was doing out there, man. I didn't stop, man. There was people, you know, and the social part of it, I am who I am as a person. I'm a very nice person, man. You know, you know, when I see somebody needs help, I'm there for them. You know, there was points where Trish was starving and we had rice and I had a little rice left over and I would say, here, Trish, have my rice. I'm not hungry. And she was like, are you sure? I was like, no, I'm not hungry. I just ate like 20 coconuts. And then I go around the corner and throw up because I'm starving. You know, you know, when they're sitting down and they're tired and they're like, hey, did anybody see my water canteen? I was like, yeah, it's over there. I'll go get it. And they're trying to get up to go get the water. No, sit down. You're already sitting down. You're relaxing. I'm standing up. Let me go get it. You know, that had nothing to do with strategy. That's just who you are as a person. And you can't go into, if you're not like that, you can't go in there and act like that. You just can't do it. You know, it's either you are that kind of person or you're not. You know, so you can't just say, oh, that's going to be my strategy to be nice and to help people with stuff. Hell no. When you go there and you're fucking tired, your true colors come out. You're going to either be lazy and sit down and do nothing, conserve energy, or you're going to be like me, where I'm just running on pure adrenaline. And that's all I was running on out there.
Hey, speaking of not eating anything, that brings us to the auction. Before the auction, did you talk to your alliance mates at all about saving money to keep the other guy, like to keep Spencer and Tasha from getting an advantage? And Absolutely. They just didn't care, huh?
they just didn't care. And there was a point where, you know, Tasha bidded $80 on one of the food items. She bidded $80. And right as soon as I was going to say nobody bid, Jeffrey says 100. I wanted to shout out, no! Like, go big, you know, like, because I wanted them to spend their money. I was just waiting for any of them, Spencer or Tasha, to say $20 on anything, and I was going to scream. I already had that planned out, and I just couldn't beat Jeffrey to it. I couldn't beat Jeffrey to it. She said $100, and she won it, and then Tasha had her $500 back. And I was burning up inside. I was like, why the hell would you do that? Why? Why would you do that? You know, and I was like crying inside of me, especially Jeffrey. You're 90 pounds. You just came from a reward challenge, which was the cave. I don't know if you guys remember, but I remember I remember the chronological order of that because I was in the game. I knew what was going on. It was the cave. They just came from the cave challenge where they were eating all those ribs. That was the very next day that we went to the auction, man, and she was bidding on food, saying she was starving. Are you kidding me, man?
So actually, That reminds like when the auction starts, and people are spending money on stuff, and you were kind of talking like, "Oh my god, for all of this," and I wasn't sure if you were saying that because you were like really excited about the food that you knew you weren't going to have, or that you were being driven nuts that your alliance mates were voting, were spending their money on this stuff. So it was that, wasn't it?
I was pissed off that but then again, what were they gonna do? They were all gonna sit there with an advantage, But the thing was, and Wu, come on, Wu, man, you don't need to bid on food. Stay with me. Let's try to wait for an advantage or something, man. We need it, and we need it. And that's why when Tasha didn't, I couldn't believe Tasha didn't. When she had the $500 and she said no, that was 66% against my 33%. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I was like, oh my. And again, that's luck, right? But it's only, again, luck has a lot to do with it, but so does hard work and good play. Like if I went there and spend my money, I don't care how lucky I am, I'm not getting an advantage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So me playing the game, the harder you play, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I got lucky that I got that rock because that changed the game again. For me having that idol, it means Spencer didn't have it, and that's all that mattered to me. And and you've seen I had the special idol at that point. And there was a lot of conspiracy theories that production wanted Tony to find the idol, and I'm like, come on guys, man, you fucking kidding me? I said that I'm the last person they would want to find that idol because they know they're not going to get no action with that idol because I was in such a power position at that point where I didn't need it. I didn't need no idols at that point. We were all looking for Spencer. We were all looking for Tasha. I did not need it. If they wanted to help anybody, it should have been Spencer. That would have really, really fucked the game up big time. So it's like when they throw those theories out there, it's like, but again, the way the editing makes it look like, Tony needed an idol, he went out and found it in 2 minutes. Meanwhile, I was looking for it for 13 days, at least 2-3 hours a day. So they don't show that. They can't show that, and there's no reason for them to show that.
Right.
But yeah, we were all looking for the idols. Spencer was looking for the idols. Jeremiah was looking. We were all looking, man. All of us were looking for the idols.
Even Morgan looked that one time.
Yeah, that's right. With the mad treasure hunt. That's right.
Yeah.
We were always, of course, like me, I was relentless. I was looking for it every single day, where some people would look for it every other day, or some people would look at it one every 4 days. I was just nonstop. Every palm frond I cut down, I was looking for the idol, and I cut down maybe 1,000 palm fronds.
That must be why they're not using Philippines next season. You tore the whole place apart. Now they have to go to Nicaragua again.
You know what? You might be saying that as a joke, man, but it's the truth, man. Every single tree is bare. There's no more palm fronds on them. I literally chopped down hundreds and hundreds of palm fronds. And what happened was there was also I wish it would have made the air, but it didn't. There was a time where it was like pouring rain, and I built a shelter on top of the fire to keep the fire going all night, even in the rain. And it was pouring rain, and Spencer comes by the fire like it must have been like 3 a.m. or something. Everybody's snoring, knocked out, and it's raining, and they're getting rained on. So Spencer's like shivering. So he comes by the fire, and I'm in the dark just chopping down little wood, throwing it in the fire to keep it going. And he comes and he's all shivering. His spinal cord is popping out. He's pale as it goes, and he's shaking, and he's waterlogged, his fingers, and he's freezing. And I'm like, all right, Spencer, I'm gonna make the fire a little bit bigger. So I go in my secret stash because I had a secret stash where it's all dry, and I had like a whole bunch of dry palm fronds. And I took the palm fronds and I threw them in the fire, and the fire fucking ignited the whole shelter, the fire shelter, and it went up and it was engulfed in flames within 2 seconds. It was like 30 feet in the air, flames. So I burned down the whole fire shelter, man. Everybody was fucking went crazy. They woke up out of their sleep like, oh my God. Like it looked like the jungle was going to burn down. Thank God it was raining where it didn't let it spread. But what happened was and they were pissed off because production pulled everybody out of the shelter one by one to interview them, to go on a confessional, to ask them what they think about what I just did. And that's why I'm surprised it didn't make the air, because it was a big deal, because they were all pissed off at me. And I'm saying in my confessionals, I don't give a shit if they're pissed off. I built that thing. I'm going to take it down. They didn't help me at all. I was just going on and on and on. I don't give a fuck if they're mad at me. And what happened was, as soon as the sun came out, I was already chopping down 50, 60 palm fronds and dragging them back to camp, building the shelter all over again. So it was just nonstop, man, nonstop work.
So, well, I mean, and it made sense that you were building all those shelters since you were, a construction worker.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
But at what point did everybody know that you were a cop? Because it seemed like at the end there, you were telling stories with Spencer and I think Wu. Like, did you kind of let everybody into the secret eventually?
Yeah.
It seemed like Spencer was asking if you'd been shot at while you were a construction worker.
Yeah. No, so what happened was, all right. Yeah, let me bring you guys back to the beginning. So before I played the game, I said to myself, you know what? Some people hate cops, some people like cops. Either way, I just rather just not tell them anything. If there's a potential that somebody's on that show, on that game, that doesn't like a cop, I don't want to go on the wrong foot already. So I'm just going to say I'm a construction worker and just leave it at that. So again, when I first went in there, I talked to Cliff and I talked to Wu. You know, we all asked each other what we do for a living. That's when you saw it on the air where it said, Wu said, I'm not going to lie, I have some of your basketball cards, to Cliff. So Cliff said he was a basketball player. Wu told us he was a Taekwondo instructor and a surfer. And I told them I'm a construction worker. So then, an hour later, Sarah comes up to me and starts telling me that, are you a cop? Are you a cop? So at that point, I'm not going to tell her I'm a cop. At that point, I have to stay with the story until I'm into construction, especially when I didn't know what she did. She didn't tell me she was a cop first. She just came up to me and started telling me, you're a cop, aren't you? Aren't you? Like she bum rushed me. She didn't even give me a chance to breathe. So at that point, I'm just going to continue on my story and say, no, I'm a construction worker. Why? So that's why I said that. Later on, when I found out I was in the bottom of the barrel and I needed numbers on my side, I knew how much blue blood meant to Sarah because she talked about her cop job all the time. So I said, you know what? I'm going to come clean with her and I'm going to tell her I'm a cop. And on top of telling her I'm a cop, I'm also going to make up a lie just to get her on my side. And that's when I told her the truth about me being a cop. All right? So she was the only one that knew about me being a cop. That's the first person I came clean with. Okay, now we do a tribe swap. When we do a tribe swap now, I'm saying to myself, sooner or later, we're going to merge. If Sarah's on the other side telling those people that I'm a cop, which she did, I found out later on she told everybody I was a cop, but I'm saying to myself, if she does tell them I'm a cop, I want to come clean to my alliance first. So any lie that could come back to me, I want to be the first one to clean it up. So that's what I would do all the time. Every time I said a lie and I knew that there was a potential of it coming back, I would go and clean it up. So I told my Solana tribe when we swapped, I say, guys, listen, I'm going to come clean with you. My original tribe back in Apari, I didn't really trust them that much. I didn't really want to play with them. You guys, I want to go to the end with you guys. I want to be top 5. I'm going to come clean with you with everything. And I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not really a construction worker. I'm a cop. So I told those 5 now, the top 5 in the salon. I told them I'm a cop. So now they know I'm a cop. So now when we go back to tribal council later on and you see Jeff says, Tony, line of work, what do? You have Spencer, you have Tasha, you have Jeremiah, you have Cass. Those 4 people still thought I was a construction worker as far as I was concerned. I didn't know if Sarah told them or not, but as far as I was concerned, they still thought I was a construction worker because I never told them I was a cop. So tribal council is not a place where I want to get into my lies. I'm not going to sit there and say, well, Jeff, I told everybody I was in construction, but I'm really a cop. So I stayed with the construction just to let those 4 still believe that I was into construction. Cass, Tasha, Spencer, and Jeremiah. So once that tribal council was done, when we go back to camp, that's when I say, hey, listen, guys, let me just tell you everybody right now, I'm a cop. And that's when everybody told me, oh, yeah, we knew that because Sarah told us already. So that's why I did what I did. That's why I came clean with my Solana tribe, because I didn't want those people, I didn't want the opposing alliance to go up to my alliance and say, yo, Tony's been lying to you guys, so how much do you trust him, So that's why I came clean with my top 5 people and told them that I was a cop before somebody else got a chance to tell them. And that's why a lot of people kept saying that Tony doesn't know what he does for a living. He's so stupid, he lies. But that's what I'm saying. People don't know what's going on behind the scenes. They don't know what's going on in the show. Like, I knew when to lie and I knew when to tell the truth. And that's what I was doing the whole game.
So, given that, basically it all came out anyway, and, you just did a good job explaining the stages, is that kind of one of those things where it's probably not worth making personal details up about yourself? Because over 39 days when you've got nothing to do, eventually that sort of thing's going to come out? Or do you feel like in a different scenario you would have been able to keep up the story?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I did keep up the story, except for Sarah. And now let me bring it back to the Sarah. Even if I wasn't a cop, even if I was a real construction worker, at that point where I needed to make a move to get people on my side because I was the bottom 2, I would have told her I'm a cop because I knew that's what she wanted to hear. She really thought I was a cop, and I was going to tell her I was a cop, even if I wasn't. Hey, Sarah, listen, you're sharp. I give you credit. You really pegged me. I am a cop. I didn't want to tell you in the beginning because I told everybody I'm a construction, and I would have told her I'm a cop, even if I wasn't. I would have lied to her at that point because I knew that's what she wanted to hear, and I knew I would get her on my side. And at that point, I needed people on my side, no matter what I had to do. So yeah, I used the truth as a negotiating tool at that point. I'm not going to tell her right up front what I am. If it meant that much to her, I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it for later. And it worked out when I needed it, But yeah, so the whole thing was, I know construction. I've done construction. I've bought, flipped real estate before, so I know what goes on with it. That's why I'm not going to go in there with a lie and say I'm a car mechanic if I know nothing about it, But construction, I know a lot about construction. So I knew if there was somebody there that knew construction, they could ask me 1,000 questions. I would be able to answer it. So yeah, there was no way I was going to get caught up with a lie about being a construction worker. Later, if Sarah wasn't there, it would have never surfaced that I was a cop.
All right. Well, I think we pretty much talked all about the Cagayan experience. I guess the next big question is, would you go back? Not to Cagayan, not necessarily.
Yeah, I'm waiting to go back, man. I'm waiting for them to call me. I got to get out of here. This house is a madhouse with these little babies in here. So I can't wait to go back.
You too.
Yeah, that'll be awesome, man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're up for signing it for another season of Tony. The big worry is though, it kind of felt like you left all the cards on the table there. Like, are there any moves left for Tony at this point?
Well, again, I left all the cards on the table for Cagayan, but the next time around I'm gonna have a new deck of cards. You know what I mean? I'm gonna have a new hand. And again, everything is situational in Survivor. There's nothing textbook. So, the bag of tricks, the spy shacks, they were planned accordingly, according to the situation I was presented with, at the time. So the next time around, it might be something different. You know what I mean? Who knows? Who knows what it could be next time around? But the thing is, right now you guys seen a rookie season. Now I'm a veteran, man. When I go back, I'm gonna have to play a lot stronger, a lot harder.
And with those moves, were they things that you just thought up on the spot or thought up on one of your overnights when you're never sleeping? Or did you have kind of a whole list of moves of things you'd like to do if you were ever on Survivor that you kind of drew from as the situation presented?
No, before going to Survivor, again, it never felt like it was really happening, so I never even thought of any plans. Again, the few plans that I was thinking of, the only thing that I was pretty much pre-game strategies were to have an alliance of 3 and then a sub-alliance of 2. That's the only thing. And then when you go there and you see you're in a tribe of 6 people, that goes out the window. You have nowhere to hide when you're in a tribe of 6. You're like, oh shit, that plan goes out the window. So I found out really quick that textbook strategies will not work in that kind of game. So everything was on the fly. With framing Jeremiah, as soon as I seen that clue, you just got to be real sharp, man. So if your wheels are always spinning, if you're always in the game, you're always going to come up with things when you need them, So everything was with the Cliff situation, I had to hear what Cliff was saying. Wu didn't want to tell me what he was talking to Lindsay about, so the only way I could find out was by eavesdropping. And how am I going to eavesdrop without getting caught? By building a spy shack. And then everybody congregated by the water well. I want to hear what the hell was going on at the water well. So the only way I could hear what's going on at the water well, building a spy shack. So everything was it was all situational.
All right, John, do you got any other questions?
Yeah. How did it feel helping Andy win his Survivor League?
It's awesome. Hey, man, like I was telling you, those people on the island, I was making them believers. I think I made John a believer, man. And in the beginning, he had doubts.
Oh, you definitely made us believers. Yeah, we were all
awesome,
Tony, he's a funny character and all, but he can't win. And then also we're like, you know what? I think Tony's going to win this. So we did a complete 180 on you.
Hey, that's awesome, man. I'm glad you guys did, because a lot of fans out there, especially, I was like, come on, man. I was getting booze at the live reunion, and I'm like, come on, you guys kidding me, man? Well, it's like I was saying to Poverty, I think it's like a natural instinct for people to root for the underdog. Nobody wants the aggressor to win. In life, in nature, when you see a lion chasing a gazelle, you want the gazelle to get away. You're rooting for the gazelle to get away. You don't want the lion to fucking catch the gazelle and devour it. Even though it's the nature of the beast, right. You still don't want that. And that's what was happening with me. I was the aggressor. Everybody kept saying, don't listen to Tony. Oh my God, don't be so blind. He's gonna backstab you. Get him out of there. And that's what it was the whole game. And they kept to that. I thought it would change in the end, because just like the lion, after he devours the gazelle, then you accept it. You're like, you know what? He has to do that. That's the nature of the beast. He has to survive. And the same thing with me. You know, I thought at the end of the show, when they seen that everything I did was for a reason, it was strategic, it was calculated, it was by design, I thought they would respect it, but they didn't, I guess, man. And that's the only thing that disappoints me. It's like, wow, man, as a fan, I'm watching myself as a fan, and not being biased that it's me, but I'm watching, I'm like, damn, if Tony gets voted out, what the hell are you guys going to be watching? You're going to be watching people draw out strategies on, you know, like, what are you going to watch? What are you going to watch? It's going to be like one-sided. Everybody's going to be getting picked off one by one, not making any sense.
Yeah, just be a bunch of woo doing backflips.
Argument.
Yeah, actually, we did a podcast where we were talking to people like, hey, what are you guys cheering for? I don't think people like that very much. We were getting a little smug.
Yeah, but as fans, man, as like fans, all right, so you get me out. Now what? Are you going to be sad that Tony's out? You just wanted him out because he was in the game, you wanted him out, and now that he's out, you're regretting it? Like, what would you want? What would people want that don't like me? You know, what do they want to see? Tasha win? You know, everybody was, Tasha's the best. Tasha's, like, why? Like, what's going on? But I didn't get that. I really didn't get it, and I still don't get it.
I don't get why people would root for a less entertaining show. Like, your victory was, I mean, I love Cochran. I love Tyson. It was fun watching them win, but your season was much more entertaining because of the way that you played. So I don't understand the argument that, you know, you want Tony out. Why do you want the guy out that's making the show more entertaining? It makes no sense.
You know what? And you know, to be honest with you, like a lot of people ask me, you know, were you having it up to the cameras? Were you just trying? And the truth is, that's me, man. I'm just a clown. You know, I just went out there and I was just making the best of it, man. I'm just fun. I just had fun with it, you know. And it's a passion, you know. When you have a passion for shit, you know, you see a woman, like a 20-pound woman, and her child gets stuck under a bus or something. You're gonna see that 20-pound woman throw that bus up in the air so high to get her child underneath it, and that's pure adrenaline. That's pure passion, and that's what I had in the game, man. Because I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping. I should have been meditating number 4. You know, I wasn't doing anything, man. I was just really just nonstop. Crazy that it's just the adrenaline got me through it. And then the last day when we're on the plane going home, that's when it hit me. That's when I was like shot. I was out of work for like 3 months after that, man. I was beat down. And until this day, it's a year later, I go to the gym and I still can't lift weights. I can't even make a muscle. It just ate itself up, you know? It's crazy how bad I beat my body down.
Well, speaking of the missing work, what did you tell, because as far as I know, you're not allowed to tell your coworkers, whatever, what you're doing. So what did you tell work? Like, I'm just going to be gone for a month and a half?
Oh, no. My job, I have to tell them.
It?
And the thing, yeah, and the thing with my job is, you know, it starts from the sergeant, then it goes to the lieutenant, then it goes to the captain, then it goes to the deputy chief, then it goes to the chief, then it goes to the mayor. So it goes up a whole chain that they all knew about it. But, you know, of course I told them that they're not allowed to say anything. No, but again, it had to go through the chain, and you know, and the sergeant will tell his buddy, but don't say nothing. And then that buddy will tell his buddy, but don't. And then they'll say, don't say nothing. And before you know it, everybody knows. But as long as, you know, as long as they keep it off social media where nobody knows that they know, you know what I mean? But as far as I was concerned, I only told the people that I had to tell, you know? So, you know, and I had to get approvals. It's not as simple as like, oh yeah, I'm going out. The city had to approve me because remember, you know, I'm representing them no matter what. And you've seen the backlash. The guy's a cop and he's doing this and he's doing that and he's lying. You know, and I'm looking at people and I'm like, listen, that means every freaking cop that lied to their children about Santa Claus should be fired because they lied that there's no such thing as Santa Claus. You know, it's like, it's ridiculous, you know? So, you know, and again, and then, you know, some interviews, they interview me, they're like, but how a defense attorney will tear you apart in court? And I'm like, how? How so? Because you lied on national TV and you could look at somebody in a straight face and lie. And I'm like, I do that every day at work. But when I'm in a court of law and I take an oath, I don't lie under oath. And that's the difference. I lie all the time, but not under oath. And that's it. It's as simple as that, you know?
Yeah, and one's a game and one's real life. I never have the problem with that separation. And look, I've never been out there, obviously, and never will be. But, yeah, I never get why people get worked up about that. It's the stakes of the game. You have to get people to think you're going to do one thing so that you can do another thing.
And again, how many people? Kind of like what?
It's kind of like if I'm playing football, it's okay to tackle somebody. If I'm not playing football anymore, I'm not going to tackle you. You know? It's
Absolutely.
a game.
You
You
gotta
do
play.
things in the context of the game.
Absolutely, man. That's like bringing a soccer player into a basketball court. He's not going to be kicking the basketball. He's going to be dribbling it. So you're going to play the game how it's intended to be played. But now the thing is, people need to realize the people that have problems with that, they need to go back and watch everybody's pregame interviews where every single player in every single season says the same shit. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to lie, cheat, and steal, and do whatever it takes to get to the end. Everybody says that. Okay? So now when those people get burnt, don't cry for them because they said they were going to do the same exact thing. Whether they could do it or not is a whole different story.
Yeah, I think the only people that get through Survivor without telling any lies are the people that are voted out real early.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you go home on day 6.
It's like you didn't get a chance. But otherwise, you probably told somebody that you weren't going to vote them out, and you did. So, shut it.
Or you get your rice dumped in the fire.
Exactly. That's right. Yes, you have to lie now, or you might starve.
Yeah, there you go. So there you go. It changed the whole aspect of that. But again, pre-game, me before going in there, like me, I know that there's nothing vanilla about Survivor. I know that I have to get my hands dirty, but not necessarily bloody. And I made a conscious effort to myself to keep saying, Tone, you're gonna have to play dirty, but don't get your hands bloody. Don't go to Spencer and tell Spencer you're gonna save him and then vote him out. There's no reason to do that when you have the numbers. Like what Cass would do, we had the numbers and we knew we were voting off somebody, and she would go up to them and pretend she's working with them. And there was no reason for that. Why are you gonna play that person out? You're getting them out. You have the numbers. Leave them alone. You don't. Why are you gonna go do that? And that's what Cass did to Spencer. She knew she was gonna vote against Spencer, right? And she still pretended that she was working with him. It's like, come on. And then Spencer asked her, and the shelter. Spencer said, "Kenneth, why would you do that?" And she tells him because it was fun. Okay, you're gonna get his vote, Cass. It was fun, and I'm like, wow, man, it's just it's just dumb. It's just dumb. Even if you really mean that, keep it to yourself. Laugh inside yourself. Don't tell him that.
Yeah. The degree of difficulty with playing with somebody like Cass must have, a little bit harder. There's just no way of predicting somebody just doing things for bad reasons.
And you know what? And a lot of things too. Cass, believe it or not, was the most predictable player. If you catered to her needs and you stroked the ego, you knew 100% what she was going to do. That's the only way you could predict anything Cass was going to do, as long as you're willing to go that extent, to cater to her and to stroke her ego. And that's what I would do. So I knew exactly what she was going to do. I knew exactly where she was going. And all I did was, oh yeah, wow, Cass, that was awesome. Oh wow, Cass, you knew Spencer had the idol. Oh, you're great. Oh wow, Cass, I seen your arm when you were throwing it as a challenge. And and she was loving it. And as long as I did that to her, I would know exactly what she's doing.
And then I guess when you stopped doing it, that's when she decided to try to vote you out, even though it seemed to be her plan to take you to the end.
Yeah. And 1 second we watch her within the same half hour of the episode. Tony's very charming. He's a very likable player. And then 2 minutes later, he's like a Russell. He's the most disliked person here. And I'm like, wow, man, I can go from one extreme to the other, overnight. Wow. But yeah, no, Cass is something else, man. I'll tell you. I mean, she, like I said, man, we got along. We fished together. We caught crabs together. We talked together. She would be up really early in the morning, so we would always be the first ones to hang around in the daytime. So we got along. It's not like we don't get along, and I'm not trying to bash her as a person, but as her gameplay, if she's trying to defend her gameplay, and that's what gets me so angry. And I say, Cass, you played the same way. I go right now out into the mall, and I just pick 5 people and say, come with me, guys. And I fly them to Cagayan and tell them play Survivor. They're going to make moves. It doesn't mean they're good moves. They're just going to make moves because they don't know what the fuck they're doing, and they're just going to vote people out and not know what they're doing and just ruining everybody's chances. That doesn't mean you're playing a good game. That just means you ruined your chance and you ruined everybody else's chances of winning. So, as much as Cass helped me get to the end because she did that stupid move, I still don't respect what she did. I just think that it's messed up that these people have one chance of a lifetime to go play a game like that, and you ruined it for no benefit of nobody. You just ruined it for no reason of your own, just dumbness. No benefit of your own, you ruined somebody else's chances of winning. And that's what gets me. It's like, that sucks. Like, if you put your feet in those people's shoes, and you have somebody like Cass that just flipped on you for no reason, just destroyed your chances of winning, your destiny was in her hand and she ruined it for you guys, that's devastating, man. That's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if she had a reason, if it was strategic, fine. She outplayed me. She outwitted me. No problem. But just to do that and just to ruin their chances, man. Someone like Spencer, too, man, that's a super fan that really wanted to go ahead in the game and win. And you have this girl, Cass, that you have she's like the blackjack player. Like when you play blackjack and that person at the end, when they ask for a hit, when they're not supposed to ask for a hit, and they just blow everybody's fucking hands.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what she did. That's who she is.
All right, last question. What was your best move in the entire game?
Oh, snap, man. My best move. I guess talking to Wu. I mean, that would definitely be the best.
I think, yeah, that's pretty much empirically it. You got into the end, and you won. Can't argue that one.
Yeah, because let me tell you, man, because that was it for me, man. That was it. I should not have been in that final two the way this situation went down where he won immunity. I should not have been in the final two. I should not have been there. My game should have been over that day.
You should not have. That's true.
So I would say that's definitely my best move. But I guess I to be honest with you, man, I think all the moves, like the big moves, like the LJ move, the Jeffra move, I think those were all big moves, man, that really helped me in the game to get me where I got. So I think they were all necessary moves, man, and they were all needed moves. They were all needed moves, man. But the best move, I definitely say, I guess I'd have to say, Wu, man, convincing Wu at the end, because most people would have just said, okay, they concede. They know. There's no way they're going to the end. They can't go because every tribal council, everybody's saying, if Tony goes to the end, he's winning. If Tony goes to the end, he's going to win. He's got our votes. He's the most threatening player. He's been steering this game the whole time. And I'm telling you, every tribal council, Spencer would say that, man.
Yeah, I thought for sure that you would always have to have won the final tribal council. Like, I thought that was the only way you were going to go. And that's true for a lot of great players. They need to win that. But I guess Wu had other plans, so thanks, Wu.
Wow, man. I mean, shit. Yeah, man. Even until this day, it's like, wow, man. My game should have been over. That stupid immunity challenge that I didn't win that stupid necklace, my game should have been over that moment. It should have been over, man. So I'm just, again, man, look, I thank luck, man.
Well, as fans of the show, we're glad that you ended up winning because you rode a new path to victory, and it's a very entertaining path that we're sure people are going to try to follow, and they're not going to do well, and it's going to screw their game up, which will be fun to watch. But I'm glad it worked for you, though.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And like I said, guys, man, I listen to your podcast, man, and you guys are definitely spot on based on what you guys see. So, everything you guys predicted, it was based on what you guys saw, and I definitely respect that, man. And I don't know how you guys do it, but you guys were really good, man, based on what was shown to you on TV. I happen to know what was going on behind the scenes, but based on what I've seen on TV, you were pretty sharp, man.
Well, thank you, Tony, and thank you for coming on. We should probably let you get some sleep, although you're not the kind of person that seems to use it. And yeah, this is great. Really, thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, no problem,
and
man.
Congratulations, of course.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, man.